Today we are working with the Beauty of the Earth suite of products. And those are in the annual catalog, and you can find them on page 10 and 11. This isn't a super large suite. It's very affordable as far as suites go. It has the bundle, which is the stamp set and dies. And then there's designer, series paper, and there is an embossing folder as well. But I like this set because you can do all 4 seasons with this set and with this paper. But of course, my favorite ones are the fall cards that we can make and the Christmas and or winter cards that we can make. I like those a lot. Today we are making an angle card, and that sounds very scary, and there is some measuring involved. But I am not going to show you the card first because it might be a little bit intimidating if I do that. So we're just going to walk through the measuring process and the cutting process step by step so that you can see that you too can do this card. Let's start with a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock. We know that this is an 11-inch side, and our card we need to cut out at 5.5 by 11. So all we need to do is put our cardstock in our trimmer and slide it over here to the 5.5 mark. I love that our trimmer has this mark here because it's such a regular measurement for us that we just have to just literally slide it across there to that ruler, that line, and we know that it's at the right place. And we're going to take our blade and go right up through. I'm going to set this aside for a second. We are going to take this piece and we're going to put it at the 1 1/4 mark. I like to use my trimmer with this little hanging part at the top. And I actually like to usually cut this way, but you can alternate it if you'd like, or you can just turn the blade if you're afraid it's going to get dull going in one direction. And then I am going to cut 1 inch off of this in the length, and I may end up going in and trimming it even a little further. I'm not exactly sure. We're just going to play that by ear. Now back to our card base, we are going to put this in, and we need to score this at 3 inches and 3/8. So that's 2/8, that's 3/8. And we need to remember we're using our light colored tab, and that is our scoring blade, not our cutting blade. So at 3 3/8, and then again at 7, so we're going to have to extend our arm, 7 5/8, I believe. Let me check. 7 5/8, yes. So we know that's 4/8 here at half, and then that makes it 5/8. And then let's just give that a good score there as well. Just so you know, this is the 3 3/8 score mark, just for point of reference. How I have this laid out, we are going to, now my ruler starts here at 0, not at the end. So you just want to double check that. And I am just going to put a tick mark in pencil right here. I'm going to also come down to the bottom. And I am going to measure again in 1 inch and put a tick mark. And I'm going to come on over to this side as well. And I am going to put a tick mark at 1 inch. And I am going to do the same here. And you can spin your ruler whichever way you like. We're going to bring our trimmer back over. So we are going to take this 3 3/8 inch score mark, and we're going to kind of put it in the gutter here of our trimmer. And we are going to spin our cardstock, so we may need to slide this down just a little bit. You want this gutter here, and you want this 1 inch tick mark that's along the top. We can move our scoring blade out, and we're just going to simply cut. And we just cut this little piece off of our card. Now you can save it because they'll make for great scrappy cards. when they're cut like angles like that. Next, we are going to take this point that we just made, and it's going to be up here in the gutter, and the 1 inch that's on the bottom is going to be in the gutter. Now you just kind of just need to make sure that nothing's shifted, and if you want to just hold your finger on there, that's good too. And we're going to slide right down there. We're going to come over here, and we are going to do the same thing. We have this other score line, and we're going to just turn this. So let's put this 1 inch tick mark, and you do sometimes have to, you know, look around. That score line is sometimes hard to see, so get your head where you need to look at that. And again, we're just going to take this, we're going to hold this piece so it doesn't shift, and take that up. Now, if your angle's a little off, you're good. If you feel it's way off, you can fix it. Don't get too stressed out about it. Again, we have our 1 inch mark, and we have our corner up there. And we're just going to hold this in place and give it a swipe. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to give it a crease with my bone folder. This is how I like my card to go. I like this flap on the right side to go over top. And you can see a little bit of my pencil mark is just glaring out at me. So we're just going to take a little minute and we're going to erase that. So I'm just taking a minute to erase that pencil mark just to make sure. Now use a good pencil and a good eraser, and that will make your life easier. Like my eraser my first eraser I tried left a mark there. So just go over it with a better eraser. Maybe don't make your tick marks as heavy as I did, or just make sure that when you cut it, you cut that portion off. It's really not a big deal. It's just a sign of a good handmade card if you see a little pencil tick mark. But we're going to have a lot going on this card, so you're not going to notice. But I do want you to have this just for a frame of reference. I have 2 pieces of paper in there cut exactly the same size. We just want to lay it out versus on what side we're going to do where. And I think this is how I would like mine. This is part of that designer series paper. This is that cork specialty paper, and it is awesome. You will see it's kind of thin. You'd probably maybe want to be a little bit gentle with it, but I think it is going to make for a really cute part of our card. So I kind of know how I want this to go, and you can lay them on different sides of the trimmer to remind yourself, however you want to do that. We are going to do that measuring again. Make sure you have the inches side if you are in the United States. And we're just going to make that little tick mark right there. And then here on the bottom, we're going to do the same. All of these tick marks are at 1 inch. Isn't that easy? That just makes it super easy to remember. And we'll do the same here with our cork. Now this one, I would probably be a little more cautious of where I put that mark. I'll just make sure I cut that off. But you also have to make it so that you can see it. So just depending on where that little, how the grain runs in your cork might, you may have to do it a little bit darker. So then we're going to just measure in 1 inch. And it's probably going to be almost like an indentation in that cork paper. So we kind of want to know, just remembering which direction we are cutting. And we're going to cut it the same way. And since we want this going this way, we're going to put the corner up here, and we are going to put the tick mark down here. And I might just scooch my tick mark over just a hair so that I make sure that I slice that off. Again, save these scraps. These are going to make an adorable scrappy card. Maybe we'll do that in an upcoming video. And we have our tick mark, and I'm just going to scooch it over just enough just a hair so that we cut it off. So this is going to fit on this side of our card just perfectly. We're going to do the same with our cork piece. We have our inch, and we don't have a crease mark here, so we're just taking that corner, and I am definitely making sure that I cut off because I am not erasing on this cork paper. But oh, definitely save this. This is going to be an awesome scrappy card. And then again, put that corner in and put that tick mark. And like I say, I'm just sliding mine over a little bit. There are other ways to do this card. I've tried them. They involve a lot of math and measuring, and that takes the fun out of card making for me. So I simply don't do it. I'm going to do a little bit of gluing. So I have my liquid adhesive. It's really nice for this type of card. Now you can decide how you want the gap on yours to be. I'll show you how I chose to do mine. I chose to make my sides flush. And you know what? It may even help you to unfold your card. Oops, that went flying. Just because I don't have that inside layer in yet. But if you kind of make sure that this space and this space is roughly the same, it's an angled, so it's not going to be perfect. But this definitely is the easiest way to make this card. And then we have this cork paper. But that little slidey kind of helps just when you're doing this, and especially if you want to make your angle a little bit different and pull that out away from your cardstock. And then we're just going to do the same thing here. Just kind of butt up against that. And I'm going to fold this over because we do want these to be about the same. And we want to make sure that this is slid over to the side. So those are about the same there. So see, it's coming together. Isn't that just a pretty combination? Okay, I cut out a piece of crumb cake using the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and this is the second to the largest size. And then also we are going to need a tree here, and that is done in the Early Espresso. I'm just going to pull my dies in for a second. This one here is what makes this. And I see that I didn't pop out one of my little areas. There we go. So just make sure you get all those little spaces out. And then this is the side of the DSP that matches our card front. But if you turn it over, it's just kind of like an abstract with all these fall colors. It makes a great background on your card. But I took this die and just kind of placed it on there and ran it through my machine. And then we get this part here that kind of cuts out your leaves. And isn't that nice how that goes together? It just looks like fall leaves. So I just wanted you to see I cut like that portion is 3 1/4 inches. So I just cut a whole strip down the side that way. And then this is just a 3 by 1/4 and 3 by 1/4 square. And that's what I used to cut this out. Then I also stamped a sentiment from our set, Friendships Refresh the Soul, and this is in Cajun Craze. Part of the other elements that we need for our card, we need to do some stamping. We have crumb cake, cherry cobbler, Bumblebee, and Early Espresso. So this is the inside layer of our card. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I think I need to clean my block off too. It's looking pretty darn cloudy. But I thought the inside needed some sprucing up. Especially if it's if it's a card and you don't love to write inside, this is a good way to decorate the inside. But I like to do it just because it's really fun to stamp also. And then next, let's take our Bumblebee. And the stamps are really fun as well. We kind of have two different ones, and I apologize, I need to clean my blocks. But this is the larger, and it's like the more blurry or pixelated look on that one. And we are going to use the Bumblebee. And we are just going to come, and I apologize if my head gets in here, right over top of that. And this is one you don't have to worry about masking it. It's just the way that you see the tree through there. So that's fun too. You don't have to take time to do that. You can use whatever colors you like. These are just the ones that I chose. And I decided rather than using the Cajun Craze to use the Cherry Cobbler just to give it a little more red to bring that in. And so we have this stamp for that. And we're just going to come right over top. And it doesn't have to be exactly lined up. And there, isn't that fun? Just kind of gives that fall appearance to your tree. And just to ground this tree, I have the crumb cake and this little stamp that kind of looks like a puddle. And you just want to take it down over it. There are some lines here that kind of will remain white, and you kind of want to keep those, but just line up the rest of that over that tree trunk, and that just kind of gives it a little something to ground it so it doesn't look like it's floating in midair. Stampin' Up! Just thinks of all of the details. Of course, if you wanted to choose an inside greeting or something like that, you could do that as well. So let's just finish putting things together. And see, you want to keep your design toward the bottom because the top is going to show up here. So you just kind of want to keep that in mind. I think that my glue bottle is getting to the end, and I'm kind of happy about it because it had some issues and I had to cut the end of it. And so it gets a lot of glue coming out of it. But if you tap your glue bottle, you will be amazed at how much more you can get out of it. And so if it is kind of thick like that, sometimes you can kind of even slide it into place a little bit to smear that if you get a big glob or something. And then I find that if you just really, if you've gone heavy on the glue, just kind of tap on it and don't smush it down. That makes it better, in my opinion. You don't get any lumps and bumps or things. So, but you can slide it if you need to. And then see, isn't that just super sweet? And as you can tell, we are going to use a belly band to hold this shut. And I don't like to make mine, I don't like to score mine. I like to just do it as it is. And so I am just, you could use some grid paper, however you want to do it. I kind of know that I want the seam, you know, about this area, about that midpoint. And we're just going to make sure that these sides line up together, but you don't want this really tight. You want it to be able to slit on and off nicely. And I think that that will be just fine. Let me kind of double check at that. That is going to work just perfectly. So however you want to decorate the front of your card, you kind of want to keep that in mind of how this goes. I think I am going to flop mine because you want to cover that seam. So I'm going to flop mine so this is on the top. And it needs to be sealed with a really strong adhesive. So we are going to use Tear and Tape. And now you can just kind of look to see where that comes together. So we don't want it any further out than this. And so I am just going to put my first strip here. And this is just such super great adhesive. You could put 2 strips or 3 strips. Just kind of, you know, keep in mind how heavy your decoration is, or how far it has to go in the mail, or how rough the person's going to be that's using it. All those things kind of come into play. But this is a great, great adhesive. And I don't have my take your pick tool over here, but we'll just use our scissors to get this release tape off. Oh, and see, I even need to rub that just a little bit more to get that to go. But once it's on there, there is not going to be any worrying about that coming off. You can take the time now that it's off of your card to bring your bone folder in. Make sure these are nice and straight. And then bring that over as well. And then give that edge a little crease. You can take a look. Like I have just the littlest peak of that tear and tape coming out of there. You can either push it down in, it kind of tears off, you could cut it off, any of those things. You just don't want it to get on the front of your card. We definitely don't want this to stick. So here we go. We have our card. I don't know why this reminds me of a Chinese takeout box, but it kind of does. And I need to see how I want this to be. I could do this way. I just kind of want to play and see what you might like. The reason I chose a solid, and I think I want to do it this way, is just because I wanted it to stand out against this paper. And I think that's why I just thought it just needed to do that. And so let's, since we're working with this tree that's pretty stemmy, let's glue this together on our mat. We're just going to go in these solid areas. And I can do this because we're putting this on a solid piece. You just have to take notice of what's going to show. And, you know, you don't want to adhere something to your card front. So that's the other reason I don't want to play with it on my card front. But this silicone mat is just great. And see, it just even takes up some of that excess, if you've got some excess going on. And then you'll just put this aside and it will just dry and you can just rub it off. It's great. In fact, I am going to move it because it's gluey. And then I am going to look at how I want this. I could pop this up on dimensionals. That would be nice. But I kind of don't want to have to worry about what shows through. So again, looking at it this way, you kind of just avoid the holes. You don't need to go excessive on the glue. And like I say, my glue bottle is not correct, so it's going to go excessive a little bit. But you just kind of want to make sure those outer branches are done. And I'm even going to wipe this back off because I'm not sure that's going to be on this solid part. But yeah, it definitely is. So I am going to go ahead and put some glue there. Woohoo. I can't wait for this bottle to be over. Nothing like swimming in glue. And I'm just going to check to make sure I didn't get that too low. But now you can see it's kind of gotten a little messy, but you can just clean that up with your finger. And if you have a gum eraser, that's really good if this happens to you. And this, the way I've chosen to decorate mine, takes up about this whole surface. But I kind of want to see where I want to put my adhesive. I want to put it around in here. And I think, especially since my glue is going everywhere today, I want to use my tearing tape again. Okay, I've made a game day decision. I love textiles and I love this ribbon. So I've decided I'm going to put some here on my belly band. I'm just going to put that right there in the middle. I'm going to take this backing and pop it off. And this is the front side. I just want to get that centered as much as I can in this area. I love this trim, but it is kind of thick for bows. So I'm always kind of looking how I can sneak it into my card. And that's exactly how we're going to do it. See, it's just stuff and layers, and it just takes some time. And if you're really worried about this like staying on, we'll just take another little piece and we're going to go right over this seam, but we are not going to take this backing off. I don't want that to bow around there. And since I made that little change, I'm going to change how we do this. I'm just going to use the minis since we're working around this tape. And we've got a small belly band going on. And I'm probably going to cut out just a little bit of this video or speed it up just so that you don't have to watch me put dimensionals. Okay, I got all those backings off, and I did go ahead and release that paper because the ribbon itself might stick to it and it's there, so I might as well use it. We're just going to take note maybe of how we want this. Like I want my tree trunk about there. And we can always adjust the belly band as far as the height goes. So as long as we have this kind of centered this way, we can adjust our belly band up and down however we would like it to be. And I'm just going to give that a really good press. This is still a little bit sticky. I need to just rub my fingers over that, or I have an embossing buddy that I could take and just kind of dust over it, and it would take that tackiness off. I don't want to tear my paper, but just wanted you to know that if this happens to you, that's how you fix that. And then I have our Friendship Refreshes the Soul. And I kind of want it to go off of my paper a little bit, maybe to about here. And since we've already got the dimensionals going on, we're just going to go for it. And we're going to put it on right here. We're going to put it on right here. And right here. And again, we don't want to put, if we're just adhering this to a card, we'd put some glue out here, but we don't want to do that. I really like this card. I like all of the different elements. I want to kind of sit with it a little bit. I might add some gems on it, but I just kind of want to sit with it for a little bit and see what I think about it before I do that. So come back and check the blog and see the photography, and you'll see if I added those or not. I did an envelope to match. And I think just like we did the inside, and I think that is beautiful. That makes a really nice fall card. I did a few other cards as well. This one I pulled in the Forever Fern from that set. I forget what the actual stamp set name is. Flourishing Fern, maybe. I'm not sure. I love this color combination. And this one, I just took my stamp and I took my Cajun Craze marker around it a little bit after I inked it and then cleaned it off. And that's how I stamped that and did the same thing on the envelope there. We're always looking for some masculine cards, and I thought that this fit the bill. And I like the wood grain that we have. And I actually did use that bark embossing folder on this and just decorated the inside. And I thought it was really pretty as well. And this last one is just another card like we did today. Only I chose the winter option for this one. I used some of the blue paper from the set. And it has like just some pine sprigs on it, and I think mine has collected a little bit of dust, but this is not basic white paper. This is that velvet paper, and it embossed and everything. Now you'll see there are a few little splits, so you have to get some glue on it pretty good, just because with this one it really gets a nice deep indentation, but it feels so good. And then I just anchored my card or my tree to some vellum, and I used some Wink of Stella, and the birds are velvet, and actually this is stamped on that velvet specialty paper as well. I was very, very surprised at how nicely that turned out. I failed to mention when I showed you the dies that there are these sweet two little birds. That's where those came from, and they are great sentiment labels as well. But I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I know it was probably a little bit longer, but I felt that the detail was worth it in this card. If you just saw this card on its own, you would think, oh, there's a lot of math and a lot of things that I have to figure out, and I don't want to do that. But I totally think that taking those extra minutes to just give it that little cut is great. And see, you can see the angles more in this card than this one, but I just think it's so different and it's unexpected, and that's what I love the most about it. But this is just a great suite of products for you to make all kinds of cards. Swap out those sentiments as you need to for any occasion. It's always appropriate. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.